All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling English skills.
Ooh, fun.
Specifically for beginners.
Yeah.
We found this really cool YouTube video
Okay.
that breaks it down, like all these really awesome practical tips for listening, speaking, reading and writing,
I see.
all those core skills. So we're going to,
All of them.
we're going to dive in. And I think especially for beginners, I think sometimes it can feel like, oh my gosh,
It's overwhelming.
that's a lot
Yeah.
to tackle,
You got to learn all of them.
You got to learn all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
But what I like about this video is it really kind of breaks it down in these manageable steps. And I think, one thing that's often overlooked is how these skills all kind of build on each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's something that's often missed when you're first starting out is how interconnected they are.
Yeah.
You're not just mastering one and then moving on to the next. They're all feeding into each other.
They really do. And
Yeah.
so, maybe as we go through these, you might start to make those connections for yourself.
Yeah.
So let's start with listening, which I think this video really emphasizes as like the foundation,
The bedrock.
the bedrock.
Yeah.
And they talk a lot about using podcasts and audiobooks.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is, your brain is incredibly adaptable.
Yeah.
And so the more you expose yourself to different accents, different speaking styles, you're actually training your ear to decipher those sounds. It's like building a muscle.
Totally. And it reminds me of when I first started like really listening to podcasts in English. I got really into like this storytelling podcast. And I was so like engrossed in the narratives that I almost forgot that I was like learning.
Exactly.
Okay, so-
That's the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is there's so much out there, like you were saying, with podcasts and audiobooks. You can find anything that interests you.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't have to feel like this chore. It can be something you genuinely enjoy.
Totally. And they also talk about watching movies and TV shows with subtitles, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Because you're kind of like using that visual, your brain's visual processing to support that auditory input.
Yeah, you're getting both at the same time.
Exactly.
Which is really clever.
And the cool thing is like, there's so much out there now,
There is.
it's very accessible.
Especially now.
Yeah.
I mean, streaming services,
Yeah.
YouTube, like you mentioned, it's all right there.
And, you've mentioned like wanting to improve your listening comprehension.
Yeah, for sure.
And this video like really emphasizes that, kind of starting with these like readily available materials like podcasts and audiobooks.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that approach?
I mean, it's a great starting point. I think the key here is to find something you genuinely enjoy.
Okay.
So, if you're fascinated by true crime, there are tons of podcasts dedicated to that. If you love comedy, seek out stand-up routines or sitcom. The more engaging the content, the more likely you are to stick with it.
I love that. And it's like sneaking in a workout while you're watching your favorite show.
Exactly, because you're learning without even realizing it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they have this fear of starting. And I think this is what this video does such a good job of, is it's like, just start.
Just start, dip your toes in.
Just dip your toes in and find something that really speaks to you.
Exactly.
And they also have this really interesting suggestion, which is to start with subtitles in your native language.
Oh, interesting.
And then gradually switch to English subtitles as you improve.
Okay.
Have you ever tried that?
I have, actually.
Yeah.
It's incredibly effective for a couple of reasons.
Yep.
First, it eases you into the process. You're still getting the story and the context, but your brain is slowly getting accustomed to the rhythm and the flow of English.
Right.
The second thing is it exposes you to these everyday expressions and idioms that you might not find in a textbook.
Ooh, that's so good. Because I think, even for myself, when I was learning, beyond like the basics,
Yeah.
it's like, how do people actually talk?
Right.
And this is such a good way to do that.
Absolutely. It's like eavesdropping on a natural conversation.
Yes, exactly. And so, and then they talk about active listening,
Oh, yes.
which I think is so important because it's not just about hearing the words.
It's about engaging.
It's about like really engaging and being present.
Yeah.
And, they emphasize like focusing, taking notes, and not being afraid to rewind
Right.
or ask for clarification.
Absolutely. Those are crucial skills for any beginner.
Yeah.
And, active listening goes beyond language learning. It's a valuable tool for effective communication in any situation.
It really is.
When you practice active listening, you're training your brain to identify key information, make connections, and ultimately understand the message more deeply.
I love that.
It's a skill that will serve you well in all areas of life.
Absolutely. All right, so we got our listening skills warmed up.
Warmed up.
We're feeling good.
Yeah.
Let's move on to speaking,
Okay.
which, can feel very daunting
It can be.
for beginners.
Yeah, putting yourself out there.
Putting yourself out there. And this video really emphasizes the importance of practicing with native speakers.
Absolutely. I mean, textbook exercises are certainly helpful for building vocabulary and grammar.
Yeah.
But real-world conversations are where true fluency and confidence emerge.
Okay.
Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument. You can practice scales and exercises all day long.
Right.
But you won't truly master the instrument until you start playing with others.
Yeah, and you've talked about how much you really value those like real world conversations and how they've helped you
Oh, absolutely.
kind of advance to that next level.
Yeah, there's no substitute for it.
Yeah.
You can study all you want, but until you're actually out there using the language in real time with real people,
Yeah.
that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. And this video, highlights that benefit of practicing with native speakers.
Right.
And, things like language exchanges or finding online conversation partners.
Right.
What are your thoughts on those types of resources?
I mean, they're invaluable.
Okay.
Those spontaneous exchanges force you to think on your feet, adapt to different speaking styles,
Oh, yeah.
and, learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And plus, it's a fantastic way to make friends.
Totally.
And connect with people from different cultures.
It is. I vividly recall my first attempt at ordering coffee abroad,
Oh, tell me about it.
and my latte sounded more like lottery.
Oh, no.
But the barista was so patient, we had a laugh about it, and I successfully got my caffeine fix.
Exactly. And every mistake is a learning opportunity,
That's right.
often leading to these memorable stories
Totally.
and a deeper understanding of the language.
I love that. And then they talk about recording yourself
Yeah.
speaking, which I have to admit,
Oh, yeah.
I was so self-conscious when I first tried that.
It can be awkward.
Oh my gosh.
It can be really awkward at first.
But it's so revealing.
It is because, we don't always hear ourselves the way others hear us.
Yeah.
And so when you record yourself, you can pinpoint areas for improvement, whether it's pronunciation, intonation, or even the pace of your speech.
It's like having a personal speech coach in your pocket.
Exactly. And it's free.
It's free.
You don't have to pay for expensive lessons. You can just use your phone.
And then for like pronunciation, they talk about tongue twisters, which I think is so fun.
Oh, yeah.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
Classic.
Yeah.
But those seemingly silly phrases can be incredibly effective
Yeah.
for targeting specific sounds.
Oh, totally.
And improving your muscle memory for pronunciation.
I love that they made it fun.
It should be fun.
It should be fun.
Learning a language shouldn't feel like a chore.
Right. It's about finding those moments of joy and playfulness in the process.
Absolutely.
Okay. Ready to flex those writing muscles.
Let's do it.
All right. They highlight journaling as a surprisingly powerful tool.
Oh, journaling is fantastic.
And this is something I've gotten into recently.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of journaling is it doesn't require perfection.
Right.
It's about expressing yourself freely and consistently.
Yeah.
And it's like a workout for your writing muscles,
It is.
helping you develop that natural flow
Yeah.
and expand your vocabulary.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating here is
Yeah.
you don't even have to have a specific topic in mind.
Right.
You can just write about whatever comes to your head.
It reminds me of those morning pages that
Yes?
some writers swear by. Just get your thoughts down on paper without judgment.
So let it flow.
Just let it flow.
Yeah.
And then they also talk about incorporating reading
Oh, yeah.
into your writing practice,
It's essential.
which is something I've found so helpful.
It is because reading exposes you to different writing styles, sentence structures, vocabulary.
Yeah.
And by consciously analyzing well-written texts, you start to internalize the rules of the language,
Right.
leading to more polished and effective writing.
It's like absorbing the DNA of good writing,
Exactly.
and I've noticed like when I'm actively reading,
Yeah.
I start to incorporate new words and phrases into my own writing more naturally.
Absolutely. It's a subconscious process of osmosis,
Yes.
and it's a beautiful thing.
And then beyond journaling, they encourage practicing more formal writing,
Right.
like essays or short stories.
Yeah, those exercises encourage you to think critically, organize your thoughts,
Yeah.
develop a more sophisticated writing style.
Yeah, it's like leveling up.
It is.
and the game of writing.
Absolutely.
Okay, speaking of leveling up, are you ready to dive into the world of reading?
I am. Let's go.
All right, so the video emphasizes the importance of variety.
Oh, yeah.
Exploring different genres, formats, and authors.
Absolutely. And this raises an important question.
Okay.
Why is that so important, especially for beginners? Well, think of it as broadening your horizons within the language.
Okay.
Each genre and author exposes you to a different vocabulary writing style perspective.
Totally.
It's like tasting different flavors from around the world.
Okay.
It expands your palate and your appreciation for the nuances.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
I remember like venturing outside of my usual reading comfort zone,
Oh, yeah.
and I picked up this historical fiction novel.
Okay.
And I was so immersed in the story that I was effortlessly learning about a different time period culture
Wow.
and even expanding my vocabulary.
That's amazing.
And I was like, wait,
You're learning without realizing it?
I'm learning,
Yeah.
I'm having fun, and I'm learning at the same time.
That's the best kind of learning.
It is. And then they talk about setting reading goals.
Oh, yes. Goals are important.
Goals are important, and this is something I've struggled with in the past. But I've realized the power of breaking down these large tasks into smaller achievable steps. You wouldn't attempt to run a marathon without training.
Exactly.
It's about that
Yeah.
consistency and celebrating those small wins along the way.
Yeah, you got to build up to it.
You got to build up to it.
Yeah.
And, whether it's a chapter a day or a certain number of books per month,
Right.
setting those realistic goals provides that sense of direction and accomplishment.
Absolutely. It gives you something to strive for.
It does.
Keeps you motivated.
Keeps you motivated, exactly. And then, lastly, they talk about discussing what you've read
Oh, that's a great one.
with others.
Yeah, book clubs, online forums, or even just casual conversations with friends
Yeah.
who share your reading interests.
Yeah.
It all adds another dimension to the learning process.
It's like turning that solo adventure into a shared experience.
Exactly. You can bounce ideas off each other,
Yeah.
gain new insights.
Yeah.
It really enriches the experience.
And I remember I was part of this book club,
Yeah, huh?
and we were reading this novel, and we had this discussion, and it completely changed my perspective
Wow.
on the book.
That's powerful.
It was so powerful.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
The power of conversation.
The power of conversation and sharing those ideas.
It can really open your mind
It can really open your mind
to new possibilities.
to new possibilities.
Okay.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have
But I think, we've really kind of laid out this really cool foundation,
a roadmap.
a roadmap. Yeah.
For anyone who's just starting out on their English learning journey.
And what I love about this video is it really emphasizes that mastering English is an ongoing journey.
It is.
It's not a destination.
Right. It's not about reaching some finish line.
Yeah.
It's about the process of continuous learning and growth.
And that can be exciting.
It should be.
It should be.
Embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. Exactly. And so, as we kind of wrap up this part of the conversation,
Yeah.
what are some of your initial takeaways?
I'm really struck by how accessible and enjoyable the video makes it all seem.
Yeah.
It's not about striving for perfection from day one.
Right.
It's about finding resources and methods that genuinely resonate with you.
That's such a good point. And I think, it's easy to get overwhelmed when you're first starting out.
It is. There's so much information out there.
There's so much information out there.
There's so many different approaches.
And everybody's telling you to do different things.
Exactly.
So I think focusing on that enjoyment factor is so crucial.
It is, because if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to stick with it.
You're not going to stick with it, exactly.
And that's the key to success, is consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah.
So for someone who, might be feeling a bit lost or intimidated,
Yeah.
what advice would you give based on the video's tips?
I'd say start by identifying which skill you'd like to focus on first.
Okay.
Is it understanding spoken English?
Okay.
Maybe expressing yourself in writing? Once you've got that, pick one or two of the techniques we've discussed and create a mini action plan.
I love that approach.
Yeah, break it down into manageable steps.
Manageable steps.
So, for example, if someone wants to boost their listening, they could commit to watching one episode of an English language sitcom each day with subtitles.
Yeah.
Or if they're eager to start speaking, they could find a language exchange partner online
Totally.
and schedule a short conversation once a week.
Yeah.
The key is to start small.
Start small.
Be consistent.
Be consistent.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Have fun. And to add to that, I think it's okay to experiment and find what works best for you,
Absolutely.
because not everyone learns the same way.
Right. We all have our own unique learning styles.
We do.
And that's something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Embrace your individuality and find what works for you.
Speaking of journeys, any final words of encouragement for those embarking on this English learning adventure?
Oh, absolutely. Learning a new language opens up so many possibilities. It allows you to connect with people from different cultures, experience the world in a new way, and even boost your cognitive skills.
It's like gaining a superpower.
It is.
The ability to communicate in another language unlocks new perspectives, opportunities, and friendships.
And never underestimate the power of persistence.
Oh, that's so important.
There will be challenges, moments of frustration.
For sure.
Times when you might feel like giving up.
Yeah.
But remember why you started this journey.
Yeah.
Tap into your support system.
Yeah.
And celebrate every milestone.
And to reiterate for our listeners, remember that it's okay to make mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not failures.
They're proof that you're learning and growing.
Exactly. Embrace those mistakes. Laugh at yourself.
Have fun with it.
Have fun with it.
Yeah.
And keep pushing forward.
The rewards are well worth the effort.
They are right on that note.
Yeah.
A huge thank you to you for joining us on this deep dive into mastering English skills, especially for beginners.
Yes. Thank you for being here.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights
Absolutely.
and feel inspired to continue this exciting journey.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep having fun.
Until next time, happy learning.
Happy learning. Yeah, it's amazing how a conversation can just totally shift how you thought about a book.
It's true. It's like you were reading a completely different story.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into, English skills for beginners, what are some of your initial takeaways from this video?
I'm really struck by how accessible and enjoyable the video makes it all seem.
Me too.
Like, it's not about the striving for perfection from day one.
Yeah.
It's about finding those resources and those methods that genuinely resonate with you.
Absolutely. And I think it's easy to get overwhelmed, when you're first starting out.
It is. There's so much information out there.
So much information.
So many different approaches, and everyone's telling you to do something different.
Everyone's telling you something different.
Yeah.
So I think focusing on that enjoyment factor is so crucial.
It is, because if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to stick with it.
You're not going to stick with it. And that's the key to success with anything.
It is consistency is key.
Consistency is
Yeah.
key. Okay, so for someone who, might be feeling a bit lost or intimidated,
Right.
what advice would you give them based on the video's tips?
I would say start by identifying which skill you'd like to focus on first.
Okay.
Is it understanding spoken English?
Uh-huh.
Maybe expressing yourself more in writing?
Okay.
Once you've kind of got that narrowed down, pick one or two of the techniques we've discussed
Okay.
and create this mini action plan.
I love that, to break it down into manageable steps.
Exactly. Manageable steps.
Yeah.
So for example, if someone wants to boost their listening, they could commit to watching one episode of an English language sitcom each day with subtitles.
Yeah.
Or if they're eager to start speaking, they could find a language exchange partner online and schedule like a short conversation once a week.
Yeah.
The key is to start small, be consistent, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Have fun with it. And I think adding to that, it's okay to experiment and find what works best for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because not everyone learns the same way.
Right. We all have our own unique learning styles.
And that's something to celebrate.
It is embrace your individuality.
Embrace your individuality.
Yeah, and find what works for you.
Okay, speaking of journeys, any final words of encouragement for those embarking on this English learning adventure?
Oh, learning a new language opens up so many possibilities.
It does.
It allows you to connect with people from different cultures.
Yeah.
Experience the world in a new way, even boost your cognitive skills.
Yeah, it's like gaining a superpower.
It is.
The ability to communicate in another language unlocks new perspectives, opportunities, friendship.
And never underestimate the power of persistence.
Oh, that's so important.
There will be challenges, there will be moments of frustration.
Absolutely.
Times when you might feel like giving up, but remember why you started this journey.
Yeah.
Tap into your support system, celebrate every milestone.
And to reiterate for our listeners, remember that it's okay to make mistakes.
Of course.
They're not failures.
No, they're proof that you're learning and growing.
That's right. Embrace those mistakes, laugh at yourself, have fun with it, and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, the rewards are well worth the effort.
They are, on that note, a huge thank you to you for joining us on this deep dive into mastering English skills,
Yeah.
especially for beginners.
Yes, thank you for being here.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel inspired to continue this exciting journey.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep having fun.
Until next time, happy learning.
Happy learning.
Yeah. And, it's not a race to the finish line, right?
It's not about reaching some magical endpoint where you've suddenly mastered everything.
It's about that continuous, growth and learning.
Yeah, embracing that journey of discovery.
Absolutely well said. And on that note, a huge thank you to you for joining us on this deep dive into mastering English skills.
It's been a pleasure being here.
We hope you walked away with some practical tips. Maybe a renewed sense of motivation and a reminder that the journey itself is just as rewarding as the destination.
Absolutely. And remember, everyone has their own unique path to language learning.
That's so true.
So embrace your individuality and find what works best for you.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to experiment and have fun along the way.
Exactly. Language learning should be a joyful experience.
It should be. So keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep having fun.
Until next time, happy learning, everyone.
Happy learning.